From the New Arts and Media Studios in Milwaukee, I'm Charles Purcell. This is The Log. I want to give you my latest thoughts on AI. So, what are we thinking about AI these days? Well, there seems to be lately a moment of clarity, or at least agreement. We hate it. But I think a lot of us hate it for the wrong reason. Because it'll take jobs. That's not a good enough reason. Because it makes us dumb? It rots our brains? It's literally tampering with the evolution of our species? Yeah, that's a very good reason to hate AI, or at least to distrust it. 80% of Americans are against AI data centers in their cities and towns. The environmental cost in water, energy use, also detrimental health effects for the neighbors. It didn't take us too long to pick up on this. And most people have, and 80% of Americans are against the data centers, which are absolutely required for the technology to advance and for AI applications to be outputted. There's also the problem, of course, of deep fakes, which we've been lamenting for a few years now. It's becoming more and more of a problem. In the UK, politicians are backing a member of parliament who's suing XAI over non-consensual deepfake imagery. There are also AI-fueled disinformation campaigns targeting elections in Armenia. Just a couple of recent headlines, but this is just all over the place. So legislators are feeling forced to act in some way. And then there's just the whole idea of AI slop, which most of us just detest, and a certain president revels in. There seem to be two very different but parallel worlds coexisting. They're the consumer products, the chatbots, the AI friends and therapists, and the AI-generated art and music, the aforementioned slop. So they're the consumer products. But then there's this whole behind-the-walls industrial business applications, financial applications, governmental surveillance, military, that most of us know little to nothing about. You and I have talked about this horrible strike on the girls' school in Iran. That was an AI target that killed 170 children. And no human bothered to check the accuracy of this AI decision, to intervene. It's now well known that AI is deeply embedded in the IDF, Israeli Defense Forces, in their targeting and bombing of Gaza, of Lebanon. We need to know much more about all of this. But as for the consumer side, people are using AI. They are. They're using it for friendship, for advice, therapy, research, to write papers as students, to grade papers as teachers. So it's definitely a product that's being used. But at the same time, there's this love-hate relationship because we also hate it. Look at the recent commencement speeches. That was really striking. The students, the graduates, shouting down, booing the commencement speakers at the very mention of AI. The jury seems to be in. We hate it. So where do we go? What do we do? Well, part of the backlash against AI is that, it could never replace humans. People get very indignant about this. They want to put us humans above AI. Not just a side-by-side comparison. No, they rely on this idea that humans have this special, almost spiritual ability. But see, I don't know about that. I don't really buy that argument because AI is doing what the human brain does. Of course, all of what AI knows, quote unquote, originated with people, with our minds, our ideas, our language, of course. AI is people, as Charlton Heston might say in Soylent Green. It's people. AI is people. Exactly. It takes from us every idea we've ever had up to this point. All the data is us. AI is us. AI is people. AI takes it. AI steals it. And that's morally unacceptable. I agree. But put that aside just for a second. People argue that the human brain and AI technology are qualitatively different. I don't know. I'm not sure about that. Because what does the human brain do? It collates information into new patterns. Every so-called new idea that I might have is simply a product of the sum total or part of the total of ideas that I've come across from other people, from things I've read, things I've seen. It's basic input and output. I get information from the world. That's my input. I collate it. I arrange it. I think about it. I detect patterns. And then my output is some so-called new idea. That's all the human brain does. There's nothing new under the sun. And there's nothing supernatural about it. It doesn't require a soul. It doesn't require the existence of God. It's a physical activity governed by the rules of physics, not metaphysics. It's neurons and electrons and etc. It's how we operate. To think otherwise requires the existence of the supernatural. It requires God. And I can't go there. If that's your assumption, and if that's your fundamental belief from which there is no deviation, well, then our conversation is over. Then I just have to say, okay, you win. If there's a God, and if humans are God's unique manifestation, well, you can go find another podcast. I'm not going to convince you. But if you're willing to take God out of the equation, then I don't really see the difference between what our brains do and what AI does. Because it does exactly the same thing. It collates information and it spits it out. And not only spits it out, it can spit out new patterns, heretofore unseen or unheard. That's how AI can write and perform a song that's almost undetectable from a human creation. I think I can still tell, but they're getting there. I confess, I've heard some songs I'm not sure about. I once discovered a new artist I thought was really good, but I noticed their output was like a new song every day, or sometimes a couple of songs in a day for weeks at a time. And I realized, oh, okay, this must be AI. So this is what AI does. To think that the human mind is any more than that requires a belief in God, or at the very least, a belief in a universal consciousness, which I'm not opposed to. In fact, some sort of universal consciousness, the one mind idea, that seems pretty plausible. It hasn't been proven by science, probably not provable by science, but I'm absolutely willing to accept the idea of a universal consciousness. It almost seems inevitable. So I'm fine with that. But even if you accept that, a universal consciousness is just another way of uploading information or sharing information, with which, again, we collate and download, or think, or create, or build, or write, or design, or draw, or speak, quote-unquote, new ideas, which is exactly how AI operates. But we maintain this obsession that humans have some innate special quality to think or to create ideas that no AI could ever replicate. Well, not only can it replicate, I think it certainly will. Yes, the music, and especially the visual art right now, is mostly slop, but not for long. I'm old enough to remember the first time I saw computer simulation used. It was to illustrate the O.J. Simpson crime. This is the first time I saw the use of this technology. And we all laughed at it. It was so, early stage of computer simulation. And it just was very goofy. We all laughed. But, the tech has improved slightly. And it will continue to improve. It will match us. It will surpass us. I think that's a given. So our task is not to stop the technology. Our task is to harness the technology. There's a difference. We don't want to stop it in its tracks. We want to guide where it goes, where it doesn't go, and we want to be on for the ride. We want to tame this wild bronco. We want to ride it to the destination. We don't want it running off on its own, and we don't want it throwing us off. So the only way to harness the technology, as I'm putting it, is to extricate the very concept of money and profit from the face of the earth. Remove it from all human interaction. It's money, it's profit that will create this runaway technology. As long as profit incentivizes human activity, we'll have no control over this technology. To use another metaphor, I like to mix metaphors. Like water, it will find its level, and there's nothing we can do about it. Water finds its level. If, however, we abolish profit from the face of the earth, all incentives will be for the good of the earth and its inhabitants, including us. Without the incentive of money, why would anyone build or create a machine or a technology or a business that hurt people? Or let alone hurt people that threatened our very existence? Well, of course, the answer is no one would. No one would build or create a machine or a technology that hurt people. If you weren't incentivized to do so, you would need another incentive. What incentive would you have to threaten the extinction of all people? You'd have to be a wild psychopath. And sure, I suppose there are a few wild psychopaths out there who would like to do it just for the thrill of killing everyone. Okay, let's grant you that. How many, you suppose? Enough to get the job done? Who would help them? I mean, that's quite a task, killing everybody. It would take a team of psychopaths. And before all those psychopaths could get together, enough of them to pull it off, I think the rest of us could pretty easily catch them and stop them. I'm just guessing, of course, but I feel pretty certain about that. So it's not the technology itself we have to worry about. It's the incentive to create that technology. Or more precisely, the incentive to allow its advance beyond our control, to supersede us. Because much of what AI can do, of course, we want. I mean, I used spell correct as I was preparing my notes here for this podcast. I'm happy to have it. There are many, many applications of AI that we all want. The best example we keep hearing is healthcare, early diagnosis, targeted treatment. Things that the AI can do 1,000 times better than we can. AI can do mundane, repetitive work that no human should ever waste 8 hours a day doing. And especially when it's coupled with robotics to do mundane, repetitive physical work, factory lines, etc. Yeah, sure, these were good-paying jobs, but this is not the work for people. Just because we've been doing it as wage slaves for 100 years is no reason to defend it. Of course there'll be job loss. I'm not denying that for a second. Good, there should be job loss. There are 100 jobs that no human should ever have to do again. Some of this mind-numbing, degrading, repetitive work. Yeah, AI, take those jobs, take them. Well, how will we live? We need wages. No, see, well, that's the thing. We don't. There are plenty of resources in this world. There's no shortage of resources. We can all eat. We can all live in a safe house. We can all live in a safe neighborhood. There's no shortage of resources. Only the hoarding of resources and the manipulation of wage slavery to allocate those resources under the threat of homelessness and starvation. So yeah, the system has to change. That's what I'm saying. Profit has to go. Along with that, wages have to go. The whole money thing has to go. Because then AI would allow us the time and the freedom to be more human than we've ever been. Or at least as human as our indigenous ancestors were. And we all have indigenous ancestors. AI can allow us to reestablish indigenous practices when efficiency is no longer a requirement. Who cares about efficiency anymore? You want to take a year to build that chair? Fine. You want to take 5 years to write a book? Knock yourself out. Every day you wake up free to associate with friends and family, to eat meals together, to live like our indigenous ancestors did, but much better because now we don't have to fear lions who may eat us. We'll be free to do what's needed, to do what's human. If we allow AI to take the mundane jobs, we can do the human jobs. We can teach our kids. We can care for our kids. We can care for our elders, care for each other, teach each other, health care and companionship, all the human-to-human interaction that all of us need, the human touch. AI should be nowhere near any of these aspects of life. The idea of AI elder companions, I can't think of anything more loathsome, more detestable. AI teaching our kids, AI boyfriends and girlfriends, no, none of this. I'm with Pope Leo on all of this. I'm an atheist, and I find this abhorrent, sacrilegious. Bring it on. Bring on AI for how it can serve us, truly serve us. And stop allowing it to harm us. Well, you might say easier said than done. Well, I have a solution for that. So far, no one's been willing to listen. I'll holler until my last breath. The only way to do it is to strip all possibilities of profit from the equation. We have to abolish profit. It's our only chance. If profit is allowed to be the primary incentive, that central position in dictating our lives, then I don't give us much chance at all. Then it's a rapid decline. First into idiocracy, and I think we're already there. But eventually we're all just mindless drones, much, much worse off than the lowest feudal serf, serving our AI overlords and a handful of trillionaire oligarchs that reap the profits from them. Every decision we make from this day forward must do two things: advance real democracy, that means everybody, and two, must reduce and or eliminate the power of money in all human systems. Government, the workplace, the culture, all human endeavor. Abolish profit. I believe that's our only hope. Now, if I can't convince you of this, I don't know, maybe it does sound kind of grandiose. It sounds impossible. It sounds out of reach. I understand that. So even though I shudder at the word incrementalist, I guess there could be steps along the way. I'm willing to concede that point. There's so much we need to do to create democracy in this world, especially in this country, in this government. And there are 100 different reforms that I could name. We know what they are. There are ways to reduce the central role of money and profit. Right now it's through regulation, it's through tax policy. So fine, if you want to think in those terms, I don't know, at least it's a step, I guess. But I mean, for God's sakes, employers, private employers, are already requiring their employees to use AI in their work. They're not given a choice. It's an order from the boss. Well, that absolutely requires A, the absolute power of the boss to make such an order. In other words, no democracy at work. And B, it is driven entirely by the desire, the need, the compulsion of the bosses to always increase efficiency, to decrease labor cost, to increase the bottom line, to increase profit. So it all comes, everything, name anything, it all comes down to democracy and profit. And I'll add one more element to the equation here. We talked about how AI is people, right? Made the little Charlton Heston joke, AI is people! Because it quite literally is. It's all of human achievement, all of human thought, kidnapped, commandeered by the AI oligarchs. We've been robbed, we've been plundered of what rightly belongs to us. So let's put this in terms that are very, very clear. All of AI, its very existence, every application, the companies put together to advance the technology, to implement the technology, all must be publicly owned because the primary source material, the data, the stuff that's being mined, the gold in the vein, belongs to us. The same argument has been made about the internet itself. We built it. The public built it through government funding, through government research. The entire landscape, as far as your eye can see, the entire digital world, the internet, all of AI, it's ours. It belongs to us. We own it. It's our collective data. It is quite literally us. So claiming private ownership and then selling it back to us is the ultimate cosmic crime. Now, I've been trying to convince people for years that the exact same concept applies to the land itself, the earth. Claiming private ownership of digital data is exactly like claiming private ownership of land. It's unthinkable. It's absurd. Dude, this is why I'm serious when I talk about abolition. Abolish profit, abolish borders, abolish private ownership of land, abolish private ownership of digital data. It's all us and our Mother Earth. To hack away at the basic elements of our existence and then divvy them up and pass them out like gangsters divvying up the loot after the big heist. None of it belongs to them. It all belongs to us. All of it. And when you think about it that way, then there's no other alternative path except to settle for nothing less than real, actual democracy and to abolish money and profit. And our current path is taking us in exactly the wrong direction. But let me just for a second put this in the context of our current path, where we are dominated by the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. I've talked about abolishing the Republican Party, and I'm totally serious about it. They've been crystal clear on what they're willing to do, the lies they're willing to tell, the lengths they're willing to go to destroy democracy. And as long as they exist, even when they're out of power, there's this danger that every 2 years or every 4 years, they can resurface. How this country could ever be trusted again by the world community. They can't. It's impossible. As long as Republicans exist as an entity, capable of regaining power every 2 or 4 years, there is absolutely no way the rest of the world can ever again trust the United States of America. So I'm serious when I talk about that. Of course, I'm highly critical of the Democratic Party, also a corporate capitalist party. But I never do the both sides thing. I'm sick to death of these studies that come out. Oh, both sides don't trust each other equally. Well, yeah, but Democrats don't trust Republicans and wouldn't want their daughter to marry one, as the polls always ask, because the Republicans lie and cheat and do everything they can to steal and hoard money and resources for themselves and their buddies. Those aren't empty accusations. Those are verifiable facts. As opposed to, well, why do Republicans hate Democrats? Oh, because they want to take away all your guns, because they want to destroy the nation. They want to give trillions of dollars to migrants with the sole intent of overthrowing the constitutional republic of the United States. So the Democrats that the Republicans don't trust don't exist. The Republicans that people don't trust absolutely exist. So I'll never participate in this ridiculous both-side argument. The other reason the Republicans are particularly heinous is their rejection of the most beautiful thing I could say about America, and that is that it's an idea. I thought a well-established truth. I think it was the title of my civics textbook in middle school, The American Idea. It is an idea. Multiracial, multi-ethnic, multi-religious, democracy, equality, and justice. I thought these were universal. I thought we all agreed. But apparently, no, we don't anymore. Because according to the New Right, J.D. Vance's neo-Nazi blood and soil philosophy, where he has said loudly and exactly these words, America is not an idea. It's people, it's land. It's your ancestors buried in that land. It's pure Nazi blood and soil. So don't ever compare the Democrats and the Republicans to me. I think the Democrats get almost everything wrong in how they think best to govern. But they share the basic fundamental ideas and values of multiculturalism, of equality, of justice, and the idea of liberty and justice for all. I do love the idea of America, which is still barely a seedling, barely a bud. The idea of America has never been realized, but it's still a beautiful idea. And I might add, perfectly compatible with the kind of indigenous economics and land-back policies that I fight for. I've met a lot of people in my life in 100 different settings. And I've never been impressed by anybody I met in business. I've met many politicians. I've never been impressed. I've been inside many rooms, and I've discovered every time how unimpressive, even foolish, these people are. You know who I have been impressed with? Artists, writers, musicians, athletes, scientists, engineers, academics, health workers, caregivers, crafters, almost everybody else, people in all walks of life. But I've never been impressed by people whose primary occupation is to buy and sell. I've never been impressed by people who dare to write laws for others, who claim to be leaders. Because buying and selling and holding power over others, both of these are completely unnatural. It's against any basic law of nature to buy and to sell. It's against the laws of nature to rule over others. Democracy, yes. Profit, no. Yes, it's revolutionary, but we're capable of creating a revolution that will be invincible, impossible to oppose. We simply build parallel systems that ignore the current power structure through mutual aid, libraries of things, the right to repair, local public safety initiatives. Name any system, any endeavor that currently is imposed upon us by the government or sold to us by the oligarchs, and replace those endeavors with people-to-people, communitarian, indigenous, cooperative, alternative systems. That's what I mean when I say starve them out of existence. If enough of us turn our backs on their way of doing things, create our own way of doing things, they will either have to adapt or perish. And right now, the issues we face couldn't be any bigger. They literally threaten our very survival: artificial intelligence and the climate crisis, environmental degradation. So we need fundamental revolutionary reforms in governing and in economics. And when we build and live those parallel systems on indigenous values, no private land ownership, no wage slavery, gift economies, from each according to their ability, to each according to their need, we absolutely can achieve this. There's nothing to wait for. We don't have to wait for a great leader. We don't have to wait for any particular material conditions to fall into place. No. All we need to do is to educate ourselves, to band together, and do it. All right. This and all episodes can be heard at the website charlesburcell.com or on your favorite podcast platform. Thanks to our flagship terrestrial station, River West Radio in Milwaukee. Follow us on Blue Sky and Substack. Peter Donalds wrote and performed the theme song. All right. I love you. I'll see you out there.